Alright, greetings and welcome back, gentles and ladiesmen, to episode 2 of Spyro Season of Ice for the Game Boy Advance. I'm Exo Paradigm Gamer. So in this episode, alright, so last time we kicked off the game and we found that key at the bottom corner of the screen on top of that mountain in the north. So this is where the chest is in this level, and again, I know where it is because I practiced this game yesterday, so I know where everything is. It's not that difficult to find for me. But if you are like me playing this yesterday for the practice playthrough, then you will not know where it is, and you could spend a lot of time fumbling around this level looking for it. Because for some reason they decided to make every level a giant maze. And that is something that they improve in Season of Flame and Attack of the Rhinox. Is, first of all, Attack of the Rhinox is more of an adventure game with some collectathon elements put into it. So it's not a straight Spyro game like this and Season of Flame are. But Season of Flame especially brings back a more kind of linear level structure to it. And that makes those levels much easier to navigate and keep track of everything. Like I said, the map feature from the Japanese version of Season of Ice carries over to Season of Flame and is improved there. And I'll show that off when we play that game. So yeah, that is a thing, that is how that works. But, you know, that said, it's still like, it makes Season of Ice very difficult to come back to once you've played that game because of how the level design is, you know, laid out, and that Rhinox killed me. Because for some reason it's really hard to find fodder in this game. Like, there's fodder, but, you know, it's kind of hard, difficult to find it. Once again, every time you die, the NPCs feel the need to chat your ears off. Because, you know, God forbid they stick a little variable into the game to tell it whether or not the NPC has already been talked to and have it not reset when you die. Yeah, so honestly, fuck that very much. I hate that. I really hate having to mash through the same dialogue over and over again. Whenever some dumb Rhinox knocks me off a cliff or something, you know? Like I said, there is a good game that's trying to come out of Season of Flame, Season of Ice, like even more so than Enter the Dragonfly. Like, Enter the Dragonfly, I enjoy it.
Thanks, Spyro. Here, you can have this crazy-looking rock I found plugging up one of the geysers earlier.
And once again, every time you finish a quest, the game drags you over to an NPC in some random part of the level, and then you have to figure out how to get back to where you were. Like, I'm gonna be a broken record in this playthrough, and that's probably why I'm gonna bring along TGX or someone later for co-commentary, because I can only keep this up for so long, you know? Saying the same critiques over and over again. Because that's what Season of Ice is it's the same, like, 3 flaws rearing their ugly heads multiple times. And you know, I really don't think the problem with this game is that it's isometric. Because, like I said, I think the sequels are great. I think they are genuinely great Spyro games. I think that Season of Flame is worthy of being called Spyro 4, because it is just that well done and embodies what made the original trilogy so great, just so well. And those two games, like, they control slightly differently from this, and they're actually improved in that regard. But for the most part, like, the way that they're laid out, the way that the platforming works, that's the same, and that's the isometric angle of it. But they improve so many little things in terms of level design and, you know, just overall, like, for example, the equivalent of these flammable objects in every level that you have to destroy to get a fairy. That comes back in Season of Flame, but they make it so that when you die, they don't all respawn. So it's just like little changes like that go such a long way in making Season of Flame a much better game than Season of Ice. And it makes it really annoying to come back to Season of Ice because you just remember all the improvements from the later game, and it just makes this a pain to come back to.
Yo, Spyro, I know my brother Trug no talk so good, but you should know we both appreciated what you done this for us. You can have my lucky thing. I'm sorry that it's melty. It was in my pocket.
You rescued Rhonda. Cool. And once again, so the main quest like the equivalent of the main quest from the first few games is killing all the Rhinox. So yeah, that is something that is a thing in this video game. So like I said, once you've played this game once and you come back to it, like, but even then, that's you kind of have to come back to it right away, you know? It is much easier to play.
Thanks for warming me up, Spyro. My fingertips were starting to crinkle.
Like, I'm making this look easy because I played this, like, yesterday, so... But if you haven't played this game in a long time, and, you know, you come back to it like I did before my practice playthrough, then, oh boy, you are in for a lot of trouble. But yeah, like I said, the Season of Flame and Attack of the Rhinox were my childhood. Those were the games that made me a Spyro fan, because I didn't have a PlayStation, I didn't have a PlayStation 2, I couldn't play the originals, I didn't know the originals existed, for that matter. And so this was all I had, so, you know. Let's see, yeah, that's the last one. Thankfully we're done with this level.
Thanks so much for rescuing me, Spyro. Those cacti were getting kind of prickly.
And that should be it for the stage. As always, you can check your atlas with the select button. So we're already done with 2 levels out of 3 in this world. And then there are a couple of some side content you can do as well that's different from this main gameplay. Yeah. Lava Prairie's not too bad. Like, the first chunk of the game is not so bad, I don't think. But as the game gets tougher and the platforming gets more demanding, enemies have more opportunities to knock you off ledges and force you to restart. And some of the platform, like figuring out how to get around, just becomes a pain in the butt. So it's just, you know, that's just how it is. I'm sure there are some people out there who really like Season of Ice. Some people hate it. I know that there are people who don't like the sequels either. And to that I say is if Season of Ice is the only one you've played of the GBA trilogy, I highly recommend trying out the sequels. But I'll talk more about that in a second.
I'd say good morning, Spyro, but no morning will ever be good while these clumsy Rhinox are around. Can you see what you can do about this Rhinox infestation?
I don't know what I was going for with that voice. Okay, so meet one of the most annoying enemies in the entire game. I think that's called Mama Rhinox or something like that, but what they do is they spin around and create these little whirlwinds. By the way, this is something that you need the map, I think, to figure out, is that there's a little platform over there. Like I said, we have the ability to move the camera and see farther, which is very useful for planning out your jumps and whatnot. But the first few times I played Season of Ice more recently, like ever since, because this was like the one game that I couldn't find as a kid. Like, my childhood is mostly Season of Flame and Attack of the Rhinox. Season of Ice I could never find in stores. Like, every time I go to the store I'd try to find it because I liked the other two, but I couldn't find this one. So this is the one I played last. That's probably a good thing because it's easily the hardest. So if you are gonna play Season of Ice, I recommend playing Season of Flame first and then coming back to Season of Ice.
Oh, I just love purple dragons.
And yeah, so this level is probably, in terms of level design, one of the best in the game, in my opinion, because it's laid out in a way that's much easier to remember where stuff is. And that's why I hate these guys. They can knock you off the fucking ledge if you're not careful. And there's one in particular I'm gonna be keeping my eyes out because he killed me like 3 times in my practice playthrough. And, you know, every time you die, you gotta go light all the candles again. Thankfully, the enemies don't respawn, but, you know, that would be a real bitch. But I don't know why they did that with the flammable objects. Like, you can get game overs. There is a punishment for dying too many times. It respawns you at the beginning of the level and you have to go back to where you were. There are no fairy checkpoints in this video game, so if you die, or, you know, then you have to backtrack to wherever it is you were. I mean, I guess checkpoints don't matter so much since the levels are so non-linear, but still. So we're gonna go up here and kill this guy real quick. But the reason why Market Meesa is a lot better than a lot of the later levels especially, is that it's laid out in kind of like 3 islands that are all connected to each other. So there's this big one in the center, then there's the small one to the left, and there's a slightly bigger one on the right. And it makes it much easier to navigate the level because it feels like there are memorable set pieces to it. So you aren't just wandering around a bunch of areas that look the same, you know? And that makes it a lot more fun to play because I actually know where I'm going. So this is one of the best levels in Spyro Season of Ice, but like I said, once you get to Season of Flame, they actually bring back kind of the level design philosophy of the first 3 games and have kind of a main drag with side pathways on it, and that makes it much more fun to play because you always know where you're going. And a bunch of shit doesn't reset, and there's the map. You know, there's so many little improvements in Season of Flame. It's such a great game. But, you know, like I said, Season of Ice. Oh, I actually got the candles already. That's great.
Thank you.
Now we gotta figure out how to get back. I like how they put the ferry next to like that one, because they knew that would be the last one people would find, and you know. Yeah, so this level's not too shabby in my opinion. I think it's fun, but yeah. And one thing I've really got to highlight with these GBA Spyro games is I actually think that the visuals are really good for GBA. Like, look at how bright and colorful everything is. Like, it's, you know, like the backgrounds especially I think are the best looking part of the game. The pre-rendered character models look fine, you know, but feel like the cartoony looking environments really pop out. Like, things don't look blocky. Everything, like the edges of platforms and stuff actually kind of have like a unique character to it. You know, we'll see that more as we play some future levels. But one thing that I'd like to note, seeing as this is a isometric game, is that the visual design, in my opinion, goes a long way in making this more fun to play than it could have been. I'll discuss that more as that becomes relevant in some future levels, but as you can see, visual design wise, you can see that there are platforms that have kind of this cobblestone texture, and then there are ones that have this blue texture. So if you are all the way over there and decide that you want to maybe jump over this way, you can see that it's blue and know that it's too high to jump on. Because the blue platforms, you know, visual design-wise, are the higher ones.
Stop, thief! Spyro, that thief stole my new high-end overpriced action figure. Help get it back, Spyro!
I guess they're llamas, but I don't know what kind of voice to give them. And they don't... Like, I did the caveman voice from Spyro 2 for those cavemen we met in Lava Prairie because they look like the cavemen from Skelos Badlands and whatnot. And so we killed the thief, and I made that look really easy, but that can be really annoying on your first playthrough.
Thanks a ton, Spyro! Hey, this isn't an action figure at all! That bear ripped me off! It's just a stupid frozen fairy.
So, Moneybags is still being an asshole, so, but what else is new?
Spyro, boy am I glad to see you. Rhinox have stopped the bells for ringing and now the town choir is singing off tempo. Could you ring the bells in the correct order so that my choir can sing along to them?
This is kind of a platforming challenge, little puzzle. There are 3 bells in Market Meesa on each of the 3 islands. And we have to hit them in this particular order, and you can press A to skip through it. And believe me, you want to do that if you die, because then they will make you listen to it again. Okay, so this fucker right here killed me so many times, and made me have to re-get all those candles so many times.
Thanks you, Spyro. It's gonna be much easier to get some work done without those Rhinox around. One of them left behind this crystal thingy. You can have it if you'd like.
So we rescued Alice, and the prattle opened. And yeah, I don't recommend pulling off jumps like that because you never know where you're gonna land. But you know, considering that this is an isometric game, I think that compared to something like Sonic 3D Blast or even Super Mario RPG, I think the platforming in this is a lot more fun.
Thanks for the rescue, Spyro!
Like the controls, especially being able to glide and hover and stuff, makes it easier to reach platforms. They don't have a lot of really tricky dicky platforming in this game that's a pain in the butt to do. like in Sonic 3D Blast. You know, and for the most part, the emphasis is on exploration, which is where it should be in a collectathon. This could be it, you know, in terms of isometric games, I've played a lot worse just in terms of that facet. But like I said, it's not the fact that this game is isometric that's the problem. It's that the level design is not conducive to being isometric because it's so mazy. Like, a mazy type level would work a lot better in full 3D than it works in isometric because you can move the camera around and see stuff that you missed easier. With the isometric stuff, you have to literally go everywhere for the camera to focus on what you need it to. Which is why the level design in Season of Flame is so much better. Because, you know, it keeps you focused on a main drag and you always know what you missed and where you need to go. And that makes Season of Flame a lot easier than this game, but, you know, I'll take it. I'll take the better level design. But yeah, like I said, if this is the only GBA Spyro game that you have played, if you have not played the other two, I highly recommend giving those a try if you haven't already, because I think that you will enjoy those a lot more. Attack of the Rhinox especially is a joy. It's basically Hero's Tale done right, is what Attack of the Rhinox is, with a hint of Spyro 3 sprinkled on top of it. It's a pretty good game. And we've rang the bells correctly, and now they're singing.
Oh, Spyro, it's simply marvelous. The choir is singing just perfect now. Please take this metronome as a token of my appreciation.
And that should be it for this level. Unless if we missed some gems. No, we're done. Alright, finished this level quicker than I thought. It's like I said, it took me quite a while to finish some of these levels yesterday. But you would not believe how much of a difference a practice playthrough makes. Which is why I do practice playthroughs on the show, because it just, you know, it's so helpful and whatnot. Yeah, so that's it for the regular levels. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go play the Sparks level real quick, because that could probably fit in 6 minutes. Or however much time we have left. Because the other level is so yeah. So we're gonna pay moneybags. Ah, Spyro, from your heart into my pocketbook, you have spent your disposable income wisely, young dragon. And of course I'm doing the Neil Ross moneybags because that is the better one. Deal with it, Spyro 2 fans. It's like, Moneybags from Spyro 2 is like a banker, a snobby banker. Moneybags from Spyro 3 is like a slimy used car salesman. And I think that version is funnier. But as you can see, if you have played Year of the Dragon, this will look very familiar to you, because it is literally the same Sparks gameplay that we saw in that game. Sparks will fly around in a top-down shooter. Controls are pretty much the same, but there's no tutorial. So you might not know about the strafing feature if you don't read it in the manual or something, or haven't played the other game. You hold down the R button, that'll let you strafe in whichever direction that you hold down, which will make it much easier to dodge enemy attacks and shoot people from an angle. So yeah, it is a lot like the Sparks levels from Spyro 3, but it is slightly different. There are a couple of slight differences here. Much like the main levels, like the Sparks levels from Spyro 3 were very linear. Like, there were a couple of parts where it would branch off and you have to find keys and stuff, like in the Bugbot factory. But in this one, it's much like the regular levels, it's much more maze-like. You have to search around for keys to find the next area of the level you can access. And in the case of the Sparks levels, I actually think it works really well. Like, I actually think I prefer this kind of level design for Sparks gameplay over what we got in Spyro 3. Just because of, you know, how his mechanics work and how the camera is positioned and stuff. Like, this is something where I don't feel like it would work better in 3D, you know what I mean? Like, it works just fine in 2D. I don't think that this level design is ill-suited for the camera angle given. One other difference is that enemies do not drop gems anymore. So you do not have to kill everything, but it's just kind of, you know, a habit of mine at this point, having played the other levels from the other game. So yeah. And You know, admittedly, one of the reasons I do like Spyro 3 the most is because it reminds me the most of the GBA games, frankly. Like, just in terms of, you know, this game mode right here, especially, like, when I first played Year of the Dragon and saw that it originated from there, I was like, oh, cool, I get to play these in 3D, you know? And of course, they mentioned the Sorceress and Rhinox are the enemies in all 3 GBA games, and then they're the big enemy force in Spyro 3, obviously. So that's part of the reason, admittedly, that I like Spyro 3 the most, is that it feels like, rather, let me put it the other way around, it feels like the GBA game is really locked into what made Spyro 3 so good. Well, kind of. There's some issues, obviously, with this particular game of the trilogy. Let's see, we were looking for a green door. So and that's also what's nice, is that the doors are color-coded and whatnot. Whereas in Spyro 3, those Sparks levels, they weren't. But, you know, the controls, much like in Spyro 3, like, pretty much everything I said about this gameplay style in Spyro 3 applies to this game as well. It controls well. I have fun shooting people and strafing around and whatnot. The levels are more fun to play because they aren't, you know, just straight shots where you fight enemies. You have to explore a little bit, so... yeah. One thing to look out for in each of these levels is that there will usually be more than one purple door. Purple door will always be the last one that will lead to the boss. But usually there will be a second purple door lying around somewhere with some gems hidden in it. So before you go fight the boss, always make sure to go find that. And yes, it is just like Spyro 3 in that there will be a boss at the end of these Sparks levels, so... don't miss them, folks. Folks, how did that become my catchphrase? I don't even really say that in real life, but, you know, Eric bugging me about it has got me thinking. By the way, I hope you appreciate the border backgrounds in this playthrough, because it took me a hell of a long time to rip them. Like, literally what I had to do was take screenshots, 4 screenshots in an emulator and piece them all together in post. And it was quite the ordeal. I guess all the gems I was missing were in here. Alright, so this is the first boss, he's the cricket. If you manage to hold on to this power-up, it'll make this boss so much easier. Just stand in place on top of him and let the power-up do all the work for you. And you will nuke most of his health just by doing that. Once he turns red, that means he's on the ropes. I don't know why he makes that noise, but whatever. We rescued Angela. And we also got all the gems, so we are done with this level. So unlike, you know, the last game where I missed a gem and that was a big pain in the butt, we do not have to redo this level, so... cool. I guess that's all the time. That's all the time we have for today, folks. We do have just a little bit more to go with this world, one more stage, but until then, I'm Exo and I'll see you guys next time.